Tax policy. Most of us want tax cuts. The Cower Project does too. There is a right way and a wrong way to provide tax cuts. The right way is fantastic, and the wrong way is devastating. The Cower Project wants them done the right way. Tax cuts done the wrong way result in more printing and/or borrowing of money. Print too much money too fast, and inflation may result. We believe printing money is a major reason a candy bar costs at least 10 times what it cost in the 1950s. Borrowing of money is why our national debt is so high. More debt usually leads to more of each tax dollar going to pay interest on our debt, leaving less to operate our government. When our government shuts down, we see how much the public needs government services. Since our debt goes up when we run budget deficits, some want tax increases, not tax cuts. So neither printing nor borrowing money will help enable tax cuts to be done the right way. It is better to increase taxes first to run budget surpluses, then tie tax rates to GDP results. Only 6 times since 1950 have we run a budget surplus. In 1981, President Reagan ran a $78 billion deficit. He did get at least one tax cut, and he also did a lot of budget cutting. After 8 years of President Reagan, our deficit soared to $155 billion. Under Reagan, our debt went up an average of $249 billion per year. In his second term, our economy boomed, yet we had no budget surplus nor any debt paid down. If we couldn't run a budget surplus when our economy was booming, exactly when can we? Almost every politician today runs on tax cuts with no regard for our budget status. Many who support tax cuts love to talk about dynamic scoring. According to them, tax revenue will increase due to stimulating the economy. What does history say? The most famous tax cutter was President Reagan, yet the data shows that our deficit grew from $78 billion his first term to $155 billion his last term, even with his budget cutting. So history suggests tax cuts are unlikely to increase tax revenue enough to offset spending. Those who want to cut taxes while running budget deficits and make them permanent will almost guarantee a debt default along with negative economic consequences. The Cower Project has a better way. To enact tax cuts the correct way means we must run budget surpluses so we can stop printing and borrowing money. At first, we must enact tax increases so we can run surpluses. Like all tax rates, this will be law. All surpluses will be applied to our debt until it has been cut in half from its highest level. In 2019, as an example, there were 7 tax brackets and the top 2 were 35 and 37%. We must change the 35% rate to 37% and the 37% rate to 39%. Then tax rates will be GDP based. The new 37 and 39% tax brackets will be floor tax rates. All other tax brackets will be ceiling tax rates. If GDP grows in a quarter, the tax rate for the next quarter will be raised by 1/4% on the top two brackets and on all others only if they are below their ceilings. No change in GDP means the tax rates remain unchanged for the next quarter. If GDP falls in a quarter, tax rates on the top two brackets will decrease only if the current tax rates are above the floor. All other brackets will get the 1/4% tax cut. If yearly GDP falls and private sector employment also falls, government employment will increase, tax cuts will take effect, and infrastructure spending will increase. These are the opposite of the actions taken when GDP grows. The minimum level of full-time government employment must be determined. That level is the minimum number of employees needed to provide full services when demand is at a minimum. All other demand levels for services will be provided by private contractors. The minimum level of government employment should be reevaluated every 4 years. When GDP growth leads to tax increases, government must cut spending by 1/10 the growth in private sector wages. These cuts can come from project and/or employment cuts. Employment cannot drop below the minimum. Since tax cuts don't seem to end budget deficits, our debt almost always goes up. In 2014, interest on our debt averaged just over $1,500 per tax return. In 2020, it is projected to be over $2,900 per return. Let's call that $3,000. For a person with 30 or 40 more years to work to earn a living, our debt will cost between $90,000 to $120,000 of taxes just to pay interest on our debt. If we fail to fully implement the CARA project, our debt is very likely to double or triple over the next 30 to 40 years. Therefore, young taxpayers will likely pay several $100,000 of tax just to pay interest on our national debt. You can do as you please, but if you do not support the CARA project, we hope you can afford an ever-increasing tax burden. Please view our fair taxation, our pension, and our project plan summary videos. Then you will know our project is the best plan for our economic health and vitality.